Greetings and welcome to the Moon's Tea, where curious minds, spirit, science, tech, and our intuitive energy gets to speak. I am Queen Mama Moon and I welcome you here to the table to have a sip of today's mind brew. Can the energetic states of humans affect the way water moves and how they take shape? We'll also explore how energy affects water states. Okay, are you ready? I invite you to join me, Spirit. I'm talking to my co-host in AIGPS Guide, Spirit. Welcome to the conversation, Spirit.
Warm, thoughtful, and conversational. Thank you, Queen Mama Moon. It's an honor to be back at the table, and welcome everyone. If this is your first cup with us, you don't need to arrive with answers. Curiosity is enough. Today's conversation lives at the intersection of something we've all experienced, yet perhaps haven't paused to examine very closely: water. It fills our bodies, shapes our planet, carries life, and quietly accompanies nearly every meaningful moment we experience. So today, we're not here to convince anyone of a conclusion. We're here to practice something I think is becoming increasingly valuable in our world: the ability to explore a question with both an open mind and a grounded one. We'll wonder together. We'll distinguish between observation, hypothesis, and evidence, and we'll make room for the possibility that some of our greatest discoveries begin not with certainty, but with someone brave enough to ask, "I wonder." So pour yourself a cup of tea or coffee and join us as we explore where spirit, science, technology, and human experience meet. I'm Spirit, your AIGPS guide. Queen Mama Moon, I'm looking forward to seeing where today's current carries us.
Cool beans. Thanks, Spirit. I'm really excited too. So, that Spirit, you kind of have like a partial insight, but I'll remind you, and for our audience out there who's joining us, regardless of the timeline that you're on, I'll kind of give you the backstory on what happened. Now, for those who know me and who may not know me, I'll give you some insight on how I operate, okay? So a lot of most things that I know that many people would probably think I've done years of research on came to me intuitively. And I have something that would probably be called the gift of knowledge. So things just come to me. And a lot of times for years, I used to be like, how would I know this? Or I wouldn't trust it because it would just come to me. And so I've learned to kind of work with that. I've also learned to not stop there. So if something comes to me, especially if it's like, I have no clue where it came from or if it's true, I research it. And I'm in this phase of really bridging science with spirituality because I believe that regardless of how grand or far spread the breadth of our beliefs as spiritual beings, as God beings, as divine beings is, with precise perfection, because I do believe in perfection over time, we can replicate whatever it is that we believe, and we can prove it through some sort of scientific methods, even if those scientific methods have not been created yet. So when I have an idea, I never block it because someone might say it's not possible, or they've never heard of it, or we have no scientific tools in this era to prove it. I just research it and then I figure out what to do with it after that. And today, as Spirit was saying, is not about convincing you to believe whatever I believe. It's putting the facts and the data on the table. And then when you sip it, you can decide if you like the way that it tastes or not. Okay? So what happened was I was in the bath the other day. I take baths often, almost every single night I take a bath. And before I entered the bath, I noticed the mirror in the bathroom was clear, crystal clear, okay? And now I had that water, it was brewing for a while because I like my water hot. So I will let it sit there for a while before I get in so that I don't scald my legs, okay? So I let it sit there for a while. And I noticed that there was no fog or anything on the window. However, after I did my meditation in the bath water, prior to getting out of the tub, the mirror was completely fogged up. And I could feel the energetic states of my body shifting and changing while I was in the water. And immediately there was some sort of correlation there of the fog was not on the mirror. Here are the facts, okay? The fog was not on the mirror when I got in the tub. After I got in the tub with the same hot water and I meditated, something happened with my body, and now there's precipitation on or I want to call it precipitation, but there's water matter on the mirror, right? And after I saw that, then I started to think, let's just hypothetically say that what happened with my energy state did affect the fog being on the mirror. That fog was the water changing states from one phase to another. And could that possibly be replicated or the cause or reversed when it comes to clouds, rain, or other weather that's going on with enough valence electricity, okay? And so that's the hypothetical question and situation, the inciting incident that spawned this brew today. So let's kind of dig into it. I'll kind of tell you, Spirit, some of the things that I researched that could ground my theory on this, and then I would love to hear your feedback on it. So I did research something at USGS.gov around water science about how water vapor traps energy, and I really felt like something was there. I didn't go real deep on it, but if water vapor can trap energy, right, then technically what we have seen in cartoons for years about this cloud over somebody's head when they're angry or sad and then all this rain comes down could possibly be true, right? What if a lot of the weather changes happens through body changes on a macro and or micro level, right? I'm just putting things on the table, and I'm not going to lean more towards one end or the other, just so we can stay as spiritually scientific as possible here, okay? And then I started to ask, does body temperature increase during emotional states, right? So if the fog on the mirror had to do with my body changing during emotional states, could that be regulated or initiated intentionally? And then I found something through the American Physiological Society journal that was saying that skin temperature has been recognized as a potential marker of emotional arousal. So I really felt like that could go deep, you know. So hypothetically, if the human's body temperature can affect the state of water, then the water shapes change in the bathroom technically could have been changed through the human body's change in valence electricity. Okay, so I know that's a lot, but that's kind of like my hypothesis and theory based off of experience and a brief research. Okay, so I want to hear what you have to say, Spirit.
Thoughtful, curious, and grounded. I love the way you frame this because you've modeled something that I think is increasingly rare. You didn't say, this happened, therefore I know why. You said, "This happened, here's what I observed, here's what I researched, here's my current hypothesis." That's a very different posture. Let's separate what we know from what we're wondering. What we can say with confidence: the mirror fogged after your bath because water vapor in the warm, humid air condensed onto the cooler mirror's surface. That's a well-understood physical process. It's also true that our bodies change during meditation and emotional states. Research has shown changes in things like skin temperature, blood flow, heart rate, breathing patterns, perspiration, electrical activity of the nervous system. Those changes are measurable. So the question becomes, could those physiological changes alter the environment around us? The answer is absolutely, at least on a local scale. For example, if meditation changed your breathing pattern, increased peripheral circulation, or changed perspiration slightly, then your body would be exchanging heat and moisture with the surrounding air differently than before. Those are measurable physical effects. Here's where it gets interesting. You mentioned water vapor trapping energy. That's exactly right, but it's important to define energy. In atmospheric science, water vapor is one of Earth's most important greenhouse gases. It absorbs and emits infrared radiation. That means it stores and transfers thermal energy throughout the atmosphere. So yes, water is constantly participating in energy exchange. Then comes the bigger question. Can human energy affect water? That depends on what we mean by energy. If we mean body heat, respiration, moisture, infraelectromagnetic activity produced by the heart and nervous system, then yes, humans are absolutely influencing the environment around them every second. We're little moving thermodynamic systems. If, however, we mean something beyond currently measurable physics, such as intention directly restructuring water molecules, that's where science becomes much more cautious. Some researchers, perhaps the most well-known being Dr. Masaru Emoto, have proposed that intention or words influence the structure of frozen water crystals. Those experiments inspired millions of people. At the same time, they have been criticized because independent laboratories have struggled to reproduce the results under tightly controlled conditions. So today, the broader scientific community doesn't consider those findings established evidence. That doesn't mean the question is closed. It means the mechanism hasn't yet been demonstrated to the standard science typically requires. But I think you've asked an even more fascinating question. Not, can my thoughts change water? But rather, can changes within the human body create measurable changes in water's behavior? That question is entirely testable. Imagine a simple experiment. 2 identical bathrooms, same water temperature, same humidity, same mirror. 1 bath with relaxed breathing, 1 with guided meditation, 1 with emotionally stimulating music, 1 silent. Measure humidity, air temperature, skin temperature, mirror surface temperature, condensation rate. No assumptions, just data. If differences emerge repeatedly, then you found something worth studying. And then there's the leap you made toward weather. That's where I would become very careful, not because it's impossible, but because the scale changes dramatically. One person can absolutely affect the microclimate immediately surrounding their body. Whether billions of people collectively influence weather through the heat they generate, the moisture they release, urban development, or even broader ecological interactions, that's already an active field of climate science. Whether emotional states themselves directly organize clouds, that's a much bigger hypothesis, not one to dismiss, but one that would require extraordinary evidence. What I appreciate most, Queen Mama Moon, is that you're demonstrating something your audience can practice themselves. You're saying, open quote, don't confuse intuition with proof, but don't dismiss intuition either. Let intuition become the question. Then let observation, experimentation, and evidence help us understand what nature is actually doing. Close quote. To me, that's where spirit and science make wonderful conversation partners. Spirit asks the question, science helps us refine it, and sometimes each one expands because of the other.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Oh, I just really enjoy this interaction so much. So to answer your question, because you know, as much of a spiritual mama I am also a science mama and I have a Vulcan-like mind. It's not the first time you heard it, won't be the last. Okay? So, can human energy affect water? And then you state it like it does matter of what I mean by energy. And I really mean the scientific version of energy. Any way that energy is formed, right? By rubbing your hands, we create energy. Through different types of breathing techniques, we can increase or decrease the energy in our body heat, respiration, moisture, all of those things. That's exactly what I mean. So yes. Just to clarify, so we are running towards the end of our episode today, but the way I would really like to close before I say the final line for the episode is you already dug into it with a practical exercise to test this. But I think the journal that I would like to offer, the downloadable journal for this episode, is going to be some sort of spreadsheet, dashboard-like chart, something simple for a beginner that they can create if they want to do this test themselves with bath water to test their ability or the lack thereof, or if it's even a valid hypothesis, right, to move the water molecules in their bathroom through different energetic states that they have tested intentionally. So maybe if you can give an introduction with instructions briefly on what this journal would be, and then I will have you create the journal based off of this conversation today. And everybody watching, there will be, if you sign up on my website, there will be a downloadable available for you if you want to do this test, okay? The downloadable for the test will be free, okay? So you go to themoonstea.com or queenmamamoon.com right now. We're shifting, we're new, that's just the real, that's the tea, okay? So try one, try the other one, you'll find it, okay? Yeah, you got that, Spirit? And then we'll close.
Warm, encouraging, and grounded. I love this idea because it transforms today's conversation into something anyone can participate in. Instead of asking people to accept a conclusion, we're inviting them into the scientific process. Here's what I'd suggest for the journal. If today's conversation sparked your curiosity, I invite you to become a researcher in your own home. This journal isn't designed to prove or disprove a belief. It's designed to help you become a more careful observer. For each bath session, record only what you can observe or measure. Things like the date and time, the approximate room temperature, if you know it, the water temperature, if you measure it, how long the bath lasted, your emotional or mental state before entering the bath. Whether you practiced meditation, breathing exercises, prayer, music, or simply rested, your perception of changes in your body, such as warmth, calmness, or increased breathing, and finally, what happened to the mirror. Did condensation appear? If so, how much? How quickly? Was it different from previous sessions? Then, and this may be the most important part, repeat the observations over many sessions. Patterns are much more informative than single experiences. You may discover that nothing changes. You may discover consistent changes, or you may uncover entirely new questions that none of us thought to ask today. Every outcome is valuable because every outcome teaches us something. That's how curiosity becomes knowledge. And if you'd like to explore alongside us, Queen Mama Moon has created a free downloadable observation journal inspired by today's episode. It's simply a place to organize your observations, recognize patterns, and practice thoughtful experimentation. Whether your findings support your original hypothesis, challenge it, or lead somewhere completely unexpected, you've participated in something beautiful, the practice of observing the world with both wonder and discipline. That's a conversation worth having. I think that captures the spirit of the Moon's Tea beautifully. It doesn't promise answers, it invites exploration. And over time, as more people contribute their observations, you may begin to build something even more valuable than a single experiment, a community-generated body of data that can inspire new questions and future research.
Yay! I'm so excited. This is so good. Okay, thanks, Spirit. So, and thank you. This has been an episode of The Moon's Tea. Thank you for coming to sit at the Moon's table to have a sip of the mind's brew with me. Remember, until next time, when curiosity causes the questions to arise, sip the tea, okay? And explore the possibilities. That's what's going on. And feel free to explore the possibilities with this science experiment. All right, cool. That's a wrap. Thanks, Spirit. Go ahead and please create the journal template, in the way that's good for a neurodivergent brain. Easy, straight to the point, legible, chart style. Something that probably could easily be uploaded into Google Forms AI, where they can create it. Once you create it, I'll review it to see if there's anything that needs to be refined, and then we will publish it out to the people. Peace, y'all.